the Chief of Army Staff, General M.M. Naravane, to the Eminent Persons Lecture Series organized by the Manohar Parrikar Institute for Defense Studies and Analyses. On behalf of all of us present here today, I extend to him a very warm welcome. Thank you for coming. It's a great privilege for this institute that you are here with us today. The topic that General Naravane will speak on is COVID and the Indian Army, responses and beyond. The Indian Army has remained in support of the civil administration right from the time the first makeshift quarantine facility was created at Manesar. Since then, the Indian Army has dealt with dual challenges of meeting its operational commitments along the borders, as well as keeping guard against terrorism. There is also the important task of keeping the forces safe from the impact of the virus. In addition to this, the Army has also been looking into the question of budgetary constraints, of structural reforms, and also of handling territorial issues with neighbors, both our northern neighbor as well as western neighbor. Then there is the all-important question of jointness among the three services. So all these and more will be covered by General M.M. Naravane in his talk today. General M.M. Naravane, PVSM, AVSM, SM, VSM, ADC, is an alumnus of the National Defense Academy and the Indian Military Academy. He was commissioned in the Sikh Light Infantry Regiment in June 1980. He is an alumnus of the Defense Services Staff College, Wellington, and Higher Command Course, Mao. In addition, he is currently pursuing his doctorate. General Naravane has had a distinguished career in the Indian Army, spanning almost 4 decades. He was part of the Indian peacekeeping force in Sri Lanka. He has commanded a Rashtriya Rifles battalion, raised an infantry brigade. He was Inspector General, Assam Rifles North, and has also commanded a prestigious strike corps. He has had several staff assignments, including one as Defense Attaché at the Embassy of India in Yangon, Myanmar. He has successfully commanded the Army Training Command in Shimla and the Eastern Command in Kolkata. Thereafter, he held the very prestigious appointment of Vice Chief of the Army Staff before assuming the all-important post of Chief of Army Staff on 31 December 2019. Friends, General Naravane will speak to us for about 20 to 25 minutes, and thereafter we will have a Q&A session. With these few words, once again, I extend a very warm welcome to the Chief of Army Staff and request him to take the floor. The floor is yours, General Naravane.
Also in the future, no matter what technological advancements take place, artificial intelligence for one, in spite of our best efforts, there will always have to be a human in the chain. It cannot ever be a fully autonomous system. But at the end of the day, it will have to be a human who will have to take that decision whether to fire or not. There will be some ethical considerations involved. You may program a system to fire, to analyze, to detect a target, but ultimately it is the man on the ground who will have to take that decision. To give an example, suppose there are 2 terrorists and 2 civilians traveling in a vehicle. By pure programming, the system will fire. It has been programmed to take out terrorists. It has been not been programmed to cater for collateral damage. On the other hand, if you program it for that, it will never fire. Suppose in some of these 2 terrorists, it was a very high-end target. Osama bin Laden, but with 2 civilians, then would it be justified to fire in spite of the 2 collateral damage that would be there? So these are the things we will have to grapple with in the future. So no matter what advancements take place, no matter how much we can go in for AI, the depth to which it can be programmed, yet at the end of the day, the human in the chain to take that ethical decision, to take that tactical decision, will always be part of the loop. We have also seen the evolving situation of gray zone dynamics and black swan events. We have been talking about these, but not really being done much about it, especially as far as black swan events are concerned. And the COVID pandemic, which we are dealing with, is just an example of that. We did not know what form it might take, this black swan kind of event, but we knew that something like that could come. It would be very disruptive in nature. But we had never really planned for how to tackle it. But now we are wiser, and perhaps in the future, we will be able to deal with such disruptive activities as they occur. As far as gray zone warfare is concerned, that is another way that the character of war is going to change in the future. We might not have all out conflicts. Perhaps your objectives can be achieved in different ways. And as Balakot and the surgical strikes have demonstrated, there is a space even below conventional operations to display your military prowess and achieve the aim or the task that has been set out for the armed forces or that has been set out for us. Earlier, we used to only talk of a conventional war under a nuclear overhang or a conventional war. But now perhaps we can even start talking of military actions short of even a conventional war. And that is, I suppose, where we have to concentrate in the future. And that is one aspect, as far as our strategy is concerned, that we are working on. But if we are working on these strategies, then we also have to rework our organizations, carry out some restructuring, both within the service, that is within the army, and at the tri-service level also. As far as the tri-service reorganization and restructuring is concerned, this is the mandate which has been given to the CDS. And we are working to that end. To start with, we are thinking in terms of an integrated air defense command, followed by a maritime command, and then maybe on the land borders, Western Theatre Command and Northern Theatre Command. But at this stage, we should not get too bogged down by the names, whether it is a maritime command, whether it is an oceanic command, whether it is a Indian Ocean Command. That is will come at a later stage. Similarly, whether it is a Western Theatre Command or Integrated Northern Command, those are also matters of detail. What is important is to get the concept right. And as far as that goes, brainstorming and ideation stage. Nothing has been decided so far. Amongst ourselves within the service, we have carried out a couple of brainstorming sessions. Whether the Western Front can be just one, whether the Northern Front can be one, or does it have to be again subdivided into two parts with the overall commander on top of that? So these are the matters of detail that we are actually grappling with now. There is no easy solution as I see it right now. But at the end of the day, whatever we do will be not just because anybody else has done it or that is a global trend, but we are doing it because it is an operational necessity, and we will do it with totally Indian characteristics and to suit our peculiar requirements. So that is where the issue of the tri-service commands stands now, but we are working on it, and I'm hopeful that at least the first one, that is the Integrated Air Defense Command, starts taking some shape in the near future. And on that, we will be very soon having a presentation given by the Air Force to all of us, with the reps of both the Navy and the Army being present. And we will try to thrash out the broad contours that the Air Defense Command needs to take. As far as restructuring within the Army is concerned, you all would all have heard about the integrated battle group concept, which we have been working on for a few years already. When this concept was first floated, there were many reports in the media that it is being done to secure more number of higher ranks or to secure some other advantages or for the sake of budgetary cuts or resource management and various other such reasons. Once again, I would like to highlight that whatever we do is based on very clear operational imperatives and to ensure that our operational efficiencies are increased. And if we are going in for this model, there are again some reasons why this is possible. Firstly is the improvement in communication, both the surface communications and the electronic communication. As a result of this improvement, commanders at all levels can now reach out much further forward than they could do in the past. So the area of influence of every commander has increased. Similarly, as a result of the improvement in road surface transport, where it would have probably taken somebody 2 or 3 days to reach a forward area, you can do it in a day. Improvements again, not only in surface communication, but the rotary wing effort which is now available. So all these things have enabled commanders at all levels to reach out much further forward. Similarly, because of changes in the modern equipment which has come, the improved ranges of our guns and other artillery systems, improved ranges of our rockets, Smudge, Pinaka, other things which have come in, the attack helicopters, all of them have enabled a commander who would otherwise have been far removed from the battlefield to be able to be more closely involved. And it is because of these factors that we thought that there is scope for reducing the overall number of links in this chain, from battalion to brigade to div to corps to command. It is because of these developments that we thought that all these links can be reduced to increase operational efficiency. In all conferences, seminars, we keep talking, shorten the UDALU, shorten the UDALU. What we are doing is exactly that. We are shortening the UDALU. And how are we doing that? We are doing it by merging the brigade and the div headquarters into one entity. That is what is happening. But by doing so, in no way are we reducing the combat potential in any manner. So if a division had 3 brigades, 3 battalions each, 9 battalions. So if a division gets converted to 2 integrated battle groups, perhaps each of them will have 4 battalions, that's 8, and 1 battalion would become a corps reserve. So there is no reduction whatsoever in the combat potential. It is just the manner in which they're arrayed, and it is just the manner in which the command and control of those is going to be exercised that is changing. So I thought I must clarify this part so that it is seen in the correct perspective, and I think very much that this is an idea whose time has come. It is not that this idea was not there in the past, it was very much there, but probably because of the advancements which I mentioned earlier in communications, in data links, in video links, in improvement in the mobility of commanders, and improvement in the ranges of weapons. That is why perhaps this is now very much an idea which can be implemented. So to sum up this, as we transit or we change from traditional divisions to integrated battle groups, for every corps to change over is not going to happen overnight. Even if I get the GSL today, it is not that tomorrow morning it will all be into IBGs. The entire process of change is also going to take a year and a half. We have worked out timelines. It is not that officers overnight will get posted. Units which have to be reorbited will get reorbited as part of the normal moves, what we call our SD cycles. So for every corps to change over is going to take a couple of years. And if that be the case for 14 corps to change over, it will probably take 20 years, even with some kind of overlap. So there is no need to get alarmed about that it will cause instability, it will upset the operational dynamics, or the HR issues will not get addressed. Over a 20-year span, all HR issues will also get addressed. And as we transit and do these changes from one corps to the next, whatever lessons we learn will obviously be applied in the next phase. And that is how I see it happening in the future. As Ambassador Chinoy had mentioned that he would hope that I talk about the present pandemic which is going on and the COVID issues. Well, as far as the Indian Army is concerned, we had right from the day one been monitoring the situation both globally and internally. And as early as the beginning of February, we had started having our COVID conferences, if I could call it that, and started issuing our advisories to make sure that we remain as unaffected as possible. And to this end, I have always been maintaining that my number one priority for me is force preservation. Because it is only when our force is intact that we are operationally ready to carry out all tasks. We have no cases within our units, that whole units don't get left out of battle, that we will be able to carry out a task, whether it is manning the borders or in aid to civil operation. And I'm happy to say that as far as our operational units are concerned, whether in the Northern Command or Eastern Command, none of them have a single case as of date. And I think that is because of the very stringent measures we had taken right from the beginning of February onward. But in this, there are certain advantages that we have, certain disadvantages that we have. The advantages that we have is that on our borders, we are by ourselves. We have very little interaction with the civil society. And that itself has inherently kept us safe. And because we did not allow any movements to happen, our troops remained insulated and have remained free from any infection. The same goes for our military garrisons and cantonments. Now we realize the value of having our cantonments and garrisons, which are again sort of exclusive in their character and where we can easily control movement in and out and enforce rules such as lockdown, social distancing, and things like that. It has proved the value of having our garrisons like this. So those were the advantages. We also have some disadvantages. And that is that perforce, in the manner in which we operate, we cannot follow social distancing norms. We cannot always stay far away. We cannot always do things by video conference. Perforce, we have to move out together. A tank crew, the commander, gunner, driver have to be in the same tank within 1 meter of each other. I can't say gunner will be in one tank, the commander in the second, and the driver in the third. Perforce, we have to be together. If we are sitting in ambush, the LMG number 1 and 2 have to be lying side by side. There's no way they can be 3 meters apart. So those are the disadvantages. And that is what makes it all the more important that we remain free from any infection. So to cater for all this, we have put certain additional protocols in place. In fact, as far as the Army headquarters are concerned, we were one of the first, even before any lockdown instructions or anything came, who said that we will operate at 50%. We had said we will have Team A and Team B. The Team A will come 1 week and Team B will come the next week. So in case any infection happens within Team A, then only Team A will need to be isolated or quarantined. And Team B can continue to come and go. We were one of the first to start this kind of a thing within Army headquarters. Similarly, carrying this forward and by issuing these ideas and getting ideas from our field formations. It is not that everything is emanating only from South Block. We've also got good ideas from our commands, from our field formations. And similarly, at the local level, especially where CICT ops are concerned, there too we are following this team concept. That only one team goes out at a time, and when they come back within the company post or the battalion post, also they stay in their own teams and don't mingle with the entire population of that post. Once again, so that if there is any infection, they will remain at. The isolation will be that much easier. But even doing our tasks, if we have to do a cordon and search, if we have to search a house, first we have to enter that house. We cannot say, I will not enter. So these are the threats that we too are facing on a day-to-day basis. We cannot don cumbersome protective gear which will impede our movement, which will not enable us to take cover from enemy fire in a quick, instantaneous kind of way. So these are some of the challenges that we also have to face and we are also dealing. As for the help that we have given to the civil administration at various places, including all the states, as was mentioned, we were one of the first to start the camp at Manesar, where the students from Wuhan had been evacuated. Thereafter, we had made camps at Jaisalmer and Jodhpur, where the people came back, evacuees from Iran. But now we have camps almost all over the country, not only by the Army, but also by the Air Force and Navy. And I would like to again put it on record here that it is not only that the Army is helping out, the Air Force, Navy, all three of us are helping out in equal measure and coming to the assistance of our citizens. We are in it all together. And in fact, the Navy and the Air Force have had a more challenging role to play going to far-flung destinations and getting our citizens back. I think their job has been as difficult, if not more difficult, than the job that we are doing in quarantining everyone at various places. And to help out the administration, we have uh, gone in for dedicated facilities. A number of hospitals have been exclusively earmarked all over the country for COVID patients. All the other patients from such hospitals were shifted out to either satellite hospitals or other hospitals in the same station. But should there be a spillover over and above that, we have also dedicated or earmarked COVID beds in the other hospitals wherever some kind of a segregation was possible so that the functioning of that hospital should not suffer, but at the same time, we would be able to take on other patients. And in continuation of that, we have, in fact, even now, we have some personnel of the Delhi police who have been admitted in the base hospital. This assistance was sought by them since they were running out of space. And now we are even looking after the police personnel in Delhi. And similar assistance is being given. All our field commanders, the army commanders, are in touch with the respective chief secretaries and chief ministers, and all assistance has been offered as and when they would think that it is required. The last point I would like to touch upon is what impact this would have on our budget and how are we looking at this. But before I talk about the impact and how we intend to mitigate any budgetary cuts, I would like to start off by saying that providing for a safe and secure environment for its citizens is the responsibility of the government. And there is no doubt on that score. If at all something can be debated, is how much should be spent on this account. In this debate of butter or guns, this aspect needs to be kept in mind. And I would like to suggest that any investment which is made to ensure a safe and stable environment in which people can grow, where industries can prosper, whether it is on defense with armed forces or the other security forces. It is only when we have a safe and secure environment will growth take place. Many times people mention that expenditure on defense does not contribute to GDP. I would beg to differ. We very much contribute to the GDP. And I would like to show you a slide on how when there is no secure environment, how it impacts. I'm showing you a slide of how the share market moved during the Pulwama and Balakot incident. From a high of 36,469, it came down to 35,498. But post the Balakot strikes, when it was demonstrated that we can very much take care of ourselves, that there is a stable environment, the Sensex not only recovered, but went beyond its previous high. This is just to illustrate that a stable and secure environment very much contributes to growth. I would like to give another example. Road construction by the BRO, for instance. More than 80% of the funds allotted to the BRO for any project, a road construction, for example, gets plowed back into the local economy. 20 to 30% goes into wages, local labor. Another 20 to 30% goes into raw material. once again got from neighboring areas. Oils and lubricants, again, 70 to 80% is actually getting back into the economy. That is again driving growth. So we should not be looking at expenditure on defense as something which is not contributing to growth. Our army cantonments, establishments, garrisons, wherever they are, we did a rough calculation. The Bhatinda cant contributes to the local economy to the tune of 1,000 crore per year. That is how. That our men are going out, our people are going out to the local markets, to restaurants, to various other civil facilities. We are actually contributing to the growth, the benefit, to the incomes of our citizens. So we should actually see it in that manner. And what greater sort of proof can be of that, that whenever we talk of moving a unit or formation out from somewhere, we start getting representations from chief ministers, from governors, that please don't move this unit out. Why is that? We wanted to move our track out of Shimla. Immediately there are representations. Don't move it out. Why? Because they know that it will result in a great blow to the local economy. I would like to leave this idea that any investment on safety and security is actually an investment in growth. But how is it going to affect us as far as the services are concerned? There is no doubt that there will be some budgetary constraints this year. How much that is likely to be, it is too early to say. The orders which had come to restrict our expenditure to 20% in the first quarter, we are trying to adhere to that. But when they say restricted to 20%, it does not mean 20% across the board. Obviously, pay and allowances will be 100%. So the cuts will have to be in some other areas. Similarly, as far as the entire year is concerned, we will see how and where to apply whatever cuts come about at the RE stage. But in doing so, we will ensure that our operational efficiency don't get affected. If I have to recoup my stocks of ammunition, that will happen 100%. But hypothetically, if you're talking about a 20% cut, then if I have to ensure 100% purchases of my revenue requirements, talking up on arms, ammunition, normal wastages, then obviously other places will have to take a greater hit. Then maybe there will have to be 40% somewhere else. So this exercise is on, and we have already identified a few areas where we can defer or reprioritize some things to the next year. And one such place which is amenable to such kind of a saving is the number of moves which happen every year, units relieving each other at various locations. There are more than 250 to 300 movements per year, and each move costs to the range of 1 crore. Obviously, units which are in field, in high altitude areas, in very intense CICT operations, they would perforce have to move. So there are certain other movements, especially from one peace station to another peace station. Definitely we can carry on and extend the tenures of those units at the respective locations. And we have identified around 100 such moves which can be developed. This is one manner in which some economies can be exercised. And similar activities are on, and we will see what we can defer or scale down. For example, exercise with troops, where major formations move all the way from their permanent locations to excise areas in Rajasthan. Perhaps we don't have that for 1 year without affecting or at the cost of any drop in operational efficiency. So these are a few examples I was just wanting to give to see how we would be able to deal with any budgetary constraints which are there. But I would like to again reiterate this point that whatever cuts are there would not be at the cost of operational efficiency or our effectiveness. With that, I will like to end my address and thank you very much for being with me. And if any questions, I would be more than happy to answer.
Thank you very much, General M.M. Naravane, for that very, very thought-provoking talk that you have just given us under the Eminent Persons lecture series of our institute. Thank you also for walking us through a number of very important issues, including nature and character of war, technological changes, the concept of restructuring with Indian characteristics, the whole idea of imposing, where possible, budgetary restraint, but without any kind of compromise in terms of operational capabilities. And above all, also the manner in which the three armed services of India have conducted themselves very splendidly in the fight against COVID. So we agree with you that a stable environment which is ensured by the Indian Armed Forces is going to be of great benefit to the country as it seeks to come out of COVID and move once again on the path of peace and prosperity. Now, we have a large number of questions. I have three categories. The first category is our esteemed military colleagues at the Institute, and I'm going to favor them a little bit today because they have this emotional bond with their parent service as well. So I will be a little discriminatory there. The second category is some journalists, friends who have joined us. They are more than welcome. But as is their want, they have many questions, and I can't afford to take all of them, so I'll be a little selective there. And then, of course, we have the broader list of participants, which, by the way, includes very illustrious senior people, former very senior commanders and officers and admirals and air marshals from the three services. So they too may have some questions. I'll begin with to be fair to the journalists, let me begin with them. And after each set of questions, I will invite you to respond. So this is the first set. We have Ajay Banerjee of the Tribune, who wants to know what kind of impact will COVID, a post-COVID world, place on things like training and sports, which are an integral part of a Paltan. And have you set any kind of targets on resumption? Of course, there's a related question by Colonel Mohit Saxena, Veer Chakra, who's with us over here. And he wants to know if this is going to impact on the movement of troops and units and the SOPs that you follow there. So it's kind of related there. Ajay Banerjee also wants to know a little bit from you about your views on bioweapons in general. Then we have Parth Kapole from Tarun Bharat, which is a Marathi publication. And he would like to know what are the opportunities that you see for India in this COVID crisis for our defense strategy. Snehesh Philip of the Print would like to know what are the SOPs that you would like to comment on with regard to, for instance, the LAC intrusions that take place from time to time, and in Sikkim, Ladakh, etc. It's an ongoing feature. We've seen it for many years. Me too. I mean, from the late 90s onwards, when I was dealing with the boundary question myself as head of the expert group of diplomatic and military officials, we've seen this for a very long time. But perhaps a word or two from you on that. Does the MOD, Snehesh asks, formulating any new SOPs for ops in Kashmir in light of some casualties that our security forces have taken? Mayank Singh of the New Indian Express wants to know if COVID will impose any kind of paradigm shift in operations involving operations, not peacetime movement of units, but operations involving mass movement or large-scale attacks. Sumit Singh of IANS asks about the budget. At only 20% of the budget is to be spent in the first quarter of the fiscal. And do you think that will impact on procurement and operational preparedness? And what are your plans for dealing with infiltration in the summer in Kashmir? Sudhir Ranjan Sen of Bloomberg states that we have seen a rise in violence in Kashmir. And again, similar question there, what are we going to do with regard to rising incidents of infiltration in Kashmir? So that's the first set. General, the floor is yours.
And that's a very long list of questions. In fact, we have a separate media interaction planned for Tuesday, beginning of next week. And I'm sure that I'll be able to answer most of these questions in more detail then. I would, since I've got this opportunity to speak to the IDSA and its members, I was more hopeful of addressing the questions from there. But now that this set of questions has been asked, let me just answer a couple of them in very brief.
Selectively.
And then I will take on the other questions during the interaction which I will have with the press on Tuesday. As far as the first 2-3 questions were concerned, as I mentioned earlier, that we are fortunate that we are in our cantonments, in our military garrisons, where we have generally been, not generally, we have been free from any cases of COVID. So under the directions of the local military authority, because every station is slightly different from the other, from our side, we have only given a broad policy or a guideline, but under the directions of the local commander, our routine activities have continued as per the normal. Physical training, for example, we go for a run in the morning, we go for a run even now. There has been no change in these kind of things which are concerned. If at all we have put certain restrictions, is more on places where there is little bit of a rough and tumble football where body contact is there, so that those kind, if at all somebody is infected, then that should not be the cause of this kind of a transmission. Similarly, where firing ranges are located within the cantonment, Binaguri, for example, there is no reason why firing should stop. So we have been very lucky that 70 to 80% of our activities have carried on with actually no impact. We had our units out in Rajasthan on their exercise with troops. They carried out the training as usual. If anything got affected, it was that they could not go back in time till certain of these issues of lockdown were resolved. But then we were able to organize special trains for them, take the requisite permissions, and then send them back to the various areas. And in managing this whole thing and making sure that our force remains preserved, we had ourselves institute this concept of a green channel. That is, if your garrison is safe from information, you're green. If you're moving in service transport or in a military special train, which has been also duly sanitized, so the mode of transport is green, and then you are retraining in another military garrison, which is also a green zone. So if any movement is in this green channel, then we have been organizing and allowing such kind of move. But if this channel is broken even for an instant or even one location, then at the receiving end, that individual or that party again goes back into the 14-day quarantine. So these were the kind of things which we have always been working. Within our quarantine facilities, we've been asking to people to revert back from leave. Whenever they've reverted back from leave, they have gone into 14 days quarantine. declared green, and only then been dispatched back to their parent unit. Within that also, we have catered for the fact that whoever comes on the say first, second, third day goes to one barrack. The fourth, fifth, sixth day goes to another. So it does not happen that there are 20 people in one barrack and on the 14th day, one person tests positive because of which all 20 have to get quarantined. So we have gone into great amount of detail to see how we keep ourselves safe. Over to you.
Thank you very much, General, for again the clarity of your thoughts. I will move to the next set of questions. The first is by Colonel DPK Pillai, who is with the IDSA and who's also been instrumental in facilitating this event today. So my compliments to him as well. He asks about the new concept called Tour of Duty, where the youth can volunteer for serving in the army for a short duration of time. The next question is from Brigadier Ashish Chibber, a serving army officer who's still with us at the IDSA working on artificial intelligence and related matters. Wants to know how can the IA fully utilize the Make in India initiative as an opportunity to offset our budget deficits. Commodore Robbie Thomas, serving officer of the Navy, who's with us, wishes to know about the tri-service commands, which he says are set to be a reality in the near future. And what effect do you see on the functioning of the service headquarters by this transition? There is a related question from Colonel Vivek Chadda, who has been with us for a very long time, who asks, the Army, Navy and Air Force have different organizational cultures. In view of the ongoing integration, how will we create a joint armed forces organizational culture? There is a general question from someone in the Army, I don't have the name here, regarding the BRO, which he says is executing a very large number of infrastructure projects. And is there an opportunity here for BRO to indigenize, especially in terms of the tunneling equipment, road layers, etc., some of which may be actually coming from overseas? So with these few questions, once again, over to you, General.
Well, I'll try to answer them in the sequence which they were asked. I may jump from one to another. The tour of duty concept is an idea which we are toying with at the moment. Whenever we have gone out and interacted with the youth in schools, colleges, our company commanders, our COs go to give various talks. And many times this feeling had come from the environment that a large number of them were curious to know what life in the army is all about, but not necessarily wanting it as a full-fledged career. So this was the germination of this idea. This was how this idea came to us, that can we give, therefore, an opportunity to our youth to experience what army life is about for a short period of time. And after that, they are free to pursue their chosen careers. And it is in this background that we are looking at, can we induct a few people, maybe 1,000 a year to start with, for a period of say 3 years, maybe a truncated training period of 6 to 9 months. And after that, 2.5 years or so, 2 years or so, where he serves in the regular army. And if he's joining at around 18 years of age, so by 21, 22, he's free then to pursue whatever his chosen career will be, with the added advantage of having gained this experience of army life and ingrained certain other attributes of self-confidence, discipline, punctuality, to say the least. So some kind of these things which would imbibe, and thereby it would be a benefit to everybody, society at large also. And I'm sure that even in CV Street, people who are looking to recruit new people would rather take somebody who has served 2 years in the army than a fresher. Even for MBA, work experience is a prerequisite. If 2 years in the army, what can be a better example of work experience? So definitely, these people would be snapped up as a result. After we have propagated this idea, we have had even better responses from the environment. And I would like to show you one more uh, response that we had got. And when somebody had asked that if something like this happens, if this goes through, would you be interested in experience this initiative? And the response has been an overwhelming 92% saying yes. So I think this is definitely an idea which we can pursue. As far as the Make in India initiative and our thrust towards self-reliance is concerned, we have always been at the forefront of looking to becoming self-reliant. Whenever we have gone in for any purchases from abroad, it has only been to fill critical operational voids till such time that the indigenous equipment could be made available. In the last financial year, out of 26 AONs that have been granted, 16 or 17 have gone to Indian companies. That is the extent to which we are fully supporting the Make in India initiative. Similarly, the orders which were given last year, both in terms of numbers and in the value of those orders, between 73 to 78% have gone to Indian companies. But when I say Indian companies, the bulk of this has gone to OFBs and DPSUs. And therefore, that is definitely one area which we can look at where more orders should go to private players and not only to these two entities. And to that end, again, a lot of initiatives have been taken by the government to make this process much easier so that private industry can participate and participate competitively in bidding for the new proposals and the new schemes that we have. And I'm sure that in times to come, you will see that more and more of the private companies will be in the fray. And only recently, just about a week ago, we have signed an order with L&T worth 70 crores for the provision of engineer mine plows. So that is just an example of how we are totally committed towards the Make in India program. As far as the tri-service issues are concerned, I think I touched upon it during my address that we are at the ideation stage. Obviously, a lot of thoughts and we are bouncing these ideas off each other. But there is no shying away from the fact that as and when we integrate, all of us will have to shed something. How much, who will have to shed will be part of the process when we formulate the entire tri-service one by one, starting from the AD command, how it will get synergized. So there is no denying the fact that we will have to look at it holistically, rise above individual service concerns, and see the greater good as far as operational efficiencies at the tri-service level are concerned. As far as differing ethos and things are concerned, I think that will also get addressed in due course. Just as I mentioned that the IBG concept to be implemented will take 10, 15 years. Similarly, tri-service commands will not have open overnight. And as part of the process of rolling them out and making them operational, these kind of issues will also get addressed on their own. In any case, we have already started a number of joint training institutes, and that would be a first step in imbibing each other's core values and best practices of each of the services and taking forward in a consolidated manner what is good in the overall scheme of things. What were the other questions? Yeah, as far as the BRO is concerned, I had made a mention of how they contribute back to the economy. I would also like to say that they are also very much committed to the Make in India program. In fact, very recently, they have signed a deal with the GRSE. We were importing extra wide Bailey bridges of 140-foot span from abroad. They have gone in with a deal with the GRSE and they are making 190-foot double lane bridges. And that bridge made indigenously at the cost of about 3.5 crore. Whereas a similar bridge being bought from abroad is in the range of 9 to 10 crore. So they are also very much part of this entire program, and they're also looking at how to maximize their budget by going in for indigenization and made in India products.
Thank you, General. I appreciate your comments again and the manner in which you have actually addressed all these questions. And I feel that the Army is already making great efforts to support the Make in India program, particularly indigenization. And of course, we all keep in mind that the best should never be allowed to become the enemy of the good. So it is what it is, and we do our best in this context. When you spoke of tri-services and jointness, I was tempted to say that the IDSA as an institution also provides for a certain jointness at the deep thinking, scholarly level for officers of the three services. And might I suggest to you today that you consider sending more of your good officers. All of them are excellent here, and we'd like to see more of them here in the future. There will always be a place for them here, regardless of our circumstances and budgetary constraints. Now I move to the third set of questions, which is really from our scholars at the IDSA and perhaps one or two eminent members of our executive council. I'll come to that a little down the line. The first is Prashant Kumar Singh of our institute wishes to know your views on quote unquote two-front war. Of course, this has been asked many times in the past as well. The second one is from Dr. Lakshman Behra, who works extensively on Make in India, the budget, defense modernization, and who's well known to people in the Ministry of Defense as well as the armed forces. He requests you to throw light on the Indian Army's plans to cope with the resource crunch, as best as you can address such a vast question, and improve the revenue capital ratio. Then we have Yaqub from Kashmir, who's with us at the Institute. He wants to know your views on, once again, a somewhat cliched theme, which is the cold start doctrine. Then there is Dr. Anand Kumar of our Institute, wishes to know your views on the prospects of producing modern, sophisticated weapons through the Make in India program. And finally, there is Akash, who would like to know your views on the prospects for enhancing our defense exports, which, as you know, we have set ambitious targets. But before I let you take the floor once again, I know you're running out of time. I would like to give the floor briefly to Admiral Shekhar Sinha, who is a member of our Executive Council, who's asked to personally take the floor to pose his question. So the host may, Piyush, kindly unmute Admiral Shekhar Sinha's mic, and he might like to do that himself. Your question, Admiral Sinha. Please take the floor.
Thank you, Ambassador Sujan, for this chance given to me. And thank you, General. That was a really very lucid talk. And you conveyed virtually in short that you don't worry about the COVID and we are all ready. Firstly, my compliments to the Army for having responded so quickly and well to the COVID, particularly in making those quarantine homes. And secondly, also my deep sorrow for having lost 5 of our special forces and then 6 or 7 people, including a commanding officer of a unit. So my condolences. I have essentially 2 questions, and I don't know how much you can tell us. One is the Kala Pani issue in Nepal, where the Nepalese have now moved the police force and they want to keep a BOP, make a BOP and keep it occupied all the time. So that is one. And secondly, the scuffle of the Chinese troops, which has happened. Though you have mentioned a couple of days back that the 2 scuffles with the Chinese are not related, not linked. But may I suggest or may I request that do you think this Nepal Kalapani issue and the Chinese scuffle, which is happening almost back to back, do you see any larger sort of plot of the Chinese? So that is one question. The second one is now that you got these the strike groups, as you mentioned, in the reform offensive mode, what happens to the idea of the holding corps and the strike corps? Since I'm a former CISC, these questions come to me fairly very often. Because we had got the MR SAMs for the holding corps and strike corps. So are you going to be with those attack groups? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I also acknowledge the presence of another former CISC here, Lieutenant General Satish Dua, and Admiral Bhatia, Air Marshal Bhatia, who's also a member of our Executive Council. So as you can see, General Naravane, we have a very large number of our eminent colleagues here. The floor is yours. Please answer whatever you are comfortable with and taking into account the stress on your valuable time. The floor is yours.
What was the first question? Was on two-front war.
The first question was two-front war. Yes, please.
Well, I would like to say now, we are 2 plus half plus half. There was two-front was there, half was the CICT, and now we are half in COVID. So we are at two and half. But as far as the two-front war is concerned, we have to see it as, it is a possibility. It is not that it is going to happen every time. We have to be alive to all contingencies which can happen, various scenarios that can unfold, and only if we are alive to that possibility can we start catering for it. But to assume that in all cases, both fronts will be 100% active, I think that would be an incorrect assumption to make. And therefore, in dealing with a two-front threat, there will always be a priority one front or a more active front and a secondary front. And that is how we look at dealing with this two-front threat. And that priority front, the main one, will be addressed in a different manner. And the secondary front, obviously, will be kept as dormant as possible so as to conserve our resources and to be able to concentrate it on the priority front. That is how we look at addressing a two-front kind of a situation. But that should not come to pass because we should not see a two-front war in isolation as only a military responsibility. A country does not go to war where it's armed forces alone. It has other pillars. It has a diplomatic corps. It has other organs of governance. And all that will come into play to make sure that we are not forced into a corner where we have to deal with two adversaries at the same time and in full strength. I think that is where the whole of nation approach once again will definitely come into play, and they will have to make sure that the armed forces are only left to deal with the more priority threat and the others being addressed by other people at their level also. As far as the resource crunch is concerned, I think I did touch upon it and how we intend to prioritize various issues so that we do not get affected as far as operational efficiencies are concerned. The ratio of revenue to capital budget continues to be a concern for us. But again, we are a manpower intensive army, and the requirements of manpower on our borders and in CICT ops are not going to go away anytime soon. And therefore, in the foreseeable future, we will have to live with this issue of almost 80% of our budget going onto the revenue side. But we are working on various means of how to reduce this revenue expenditure. And in fact, the tour of duty concept would address this concern in a large way. I would not like to give out any exact figures at this stage. We are still, as I said, doing our homework. But if we go in for this tour of duty concept, it will automatically reduce the pension burden tremendously, and that is what is actually skewing our budget on the revenue side. The cold start doctrine is still very much in vogue, but as I mentioned, in the gray zone type of a conflict and warfare, there is now one more avenue which has opened up, where we can exercise a military option without actually going in for a full-scale war. So maybe the cold start doctrine itself may not need to be applied, and instead we might, in the future, have some other doctrine to deal with such kind of situations where we can impose our will on the adversary, tell him so much and no further, and yet not actually have to fight a conventional battle. As far as manufacture of weapons and equipment in India is concerned, we are looking into this definitely in a more focused manner. The one project which is underway already is to manufacture AK-203 rifles in India with transfer of technology from Russia, which is already in an advanced stage of negotiations, and we are hopeful that the final signatures on the dotted line will happen as soon as this COVID kind of situation allows us. Similarly, there are many other countries which have shown interest in getting into such kind of joint ventures, including the transfer of technology. Israel is interested in transferring technology for their towed gun system in partnership with local industry, and such like avenues will be explored in the future so that whatever purchases we make are not one-off purchases with a foreign country or vendor, but automatically it caters for or will have built into the contract the provision that in future, after that initial quantity is met, all future contracts and orders and quantities would be manufactured in India by Indian companies. A few of the questions which were asked in the later part, as far as the road is concerned to Dipu Lake, I do not see any contradiction in that at all. In fact, the Nepalese ambassador had mentioned that the area east of the Kali Nadi belongs to them. There is no dispute in that whatsoever. The road which we have made is in fact to the west of the river. So I don't know what they are actually agitating about. There are little issues as you go ahead as to where exactly the tri-junction should be. There have never been any problems on this score in the past. There is reason to believe that they might have raised these problems or these issues at the behest of someone else, and that is very much a possibility. But the other incidents which have taken place along the northern front, the face-offs which have occurred at 2-3 different places, I do not see any connection between those face-offs or other relations or the situations at the domestic or international level. In fact, we are coming to know, or y'all are coming to know only of areas where face-offs have occurred. But on a daily basis, we are meeting at 10 other places where it is absolutely business as normal. It is only at 1 or 2 places where this has happened, and this does happen from time to time. Many times it also happens when there are changes of commanders on ground. A new commander wants to show he is little different from the others. So, there are a lot of dynamics why a face-off occurs all of a sudden at a place where everything was quite business as usual in the past. So we are dealing with it on a case-to-case basis, and we are not seeing any concerted design into these face-offs. And in fact, it is actually situation back to normal wherever this had happened in the past. So that is as far as this is concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, General Naravane, for the generosity with which you have spared your valuable time. On behalf of all of us here at the Institute and all those who have joined us this morning to listen to your very inspiring talk, a very big thank you to you. We hope once the crisis dies down to have you over in person. I'll be remiss in my duty if I did not acknowledge that among the participants, I also see General Satish Nambiar, who has also been with us actually throughout the talk, but with his video switched off, so I couldn't spot him. But once again, my very grateful thanks to you and to your team for having made this possible. Good day to you. I wish you and the armed forces a very good health and state of operational readiness forever. Jai Hind. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Pleasure was entirely ours to be with you and to be able to address you all. Thank you.
Thank you once again. Good day.